Hello and welcome to Overtime. This week in the news, at least 4 students were killed and a number of others injured in a shooting in Michigan High School yesterday. The suspect, a 15-year-old student, will be charged as an adult and faces first-degree murder and terrorism charges. Surveillance footage shows the suspect, quote, methodically and deliberately firing at other students. We have now the following footage. This is recorded from one of the students' cell phones. They were locked down in a room, and the suspect attempted to get into the room by impersonating a sheriff. So let's actually, what I want to do real quick too is I want to make sure that you guys, hopefully you guys should have the audio. Let me know if you don't get the audio on this. So let's put this up. We're going to put this center screen here. And here we go.
Yes. Sheriff's office. It's safe to come out.
Yeah, he said it's safe to come out.
Now, we're not willing to take that risk right now. I can't hear you. We're not taking that risk right now. Okay, well, come to the door and look at my bag, bro.
No. Yeah, bro.
He said bro.
He said bro. Red flag.
Go.
Oh.
Slow down, you're fine.
All right, you probably couldn't hear that actually very well, so we're going to play that one more time with the gain turned up. We've got the automatic gain control on now. So it's the suspect. He claims to be from the sheriff department. He's knocking on the door, asking them to open it. They deduce that it's not an actual sheriff, and they flee out the back. So here we go one more time.
Yes. Sheriff's office. It's safe to come out.
Yeah, he said it's safe to come out.
Now, we're not willing to take that risk right now. I can't hear you. We're not taking that risk right now. Okay, well, come to the door and look at my bag, bro.
No. Yeah, bro.
He said bro.
He said bro. Red flag. Oh.
Slow down, you're fine.
Slow down. I want you to drop backpacks. You're okay. We're okay.
All right, and we will discuss that in a moment. Meanwhile, the United States has had its first confirmed case of the Omicron coronavirus variant in San Francisco, California. The person who has it was fully vaccinated and is experiencing, quote, mild symptoms, which are improving at this point, according to Dr. Fauci. Earlier this week, the World Health Organization released a technical brief in which they said that the new variant poses, quote, a very high global risk. The Dow dropped 450 points on the news of the first Omicron infection in the United States. Also earlier today, in the continuing trial of Ghislaine Maxwell, Jane Doe, one of the 4 women who was accusing Maxwell of grooming them for sex with Jeffrey Epstein and other powerful men while underage, said that Jeffrey Epstein took her to meet Donald Trump in the 90s at his Mar-a-Lago resort. Trump later called Epstein a, quote, terrific guy. She was 14 at the time. She also recalled being on a plane flight with Prince Andrew, and another woman has claimed that Maxwell trafficked her to Prince Andrew at the age of 17. Other than saying that she met Trump, Jane Doe has made no other claims in regards to her encounter with Trump. The trial started on Monday and is expected to last 6 weeks. Laura Logan, a South African host of Fox Nation on the Fox News media streaming service, compared Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's leading infectious disease expert, to Dr. Joseph Mengele, the so-called angel of death, the Nazi doctor who experimented on Jews in Auschwitz during the Holocaust. Quote, what you see on Dr. Fauci, this is what people say to me, that he doesn't represent science to them. He represents Joseph Mengele. Now, I took some pains to get the quote accurately because it's not entirely grammatically correct. She said this on Monday during an appearance on Fox News Primetime, quote, and I'm talking about people all across the world are saying this because the response from cultivated, actually from COVID, what it has done to countries everywhere, what it has done to civil liberties, the suicide rates, the poverty, and it has obliterated economies. The level of suffering that has been created because of this disease is now being seen in the cold light of day, i.e. the truth, and people see there is no justification for what is being done, loosely comparing, somehow suggesting that Fauci is to blame for the coronavirus. Meanwhile, CNN has indefinitely suspended the primetime anchor Chris Cuomo, quote, pending further investigation after new documents revealed his involvement in the defense of his brother, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, against sexual misconduct charges. While Chris Cuomo does not appear to have done anything illegal, it is a violation of their code of ethics for him as an anchor to assist a public figure in a defense against civil and or criminal charges. So while CNN has said, while they understand that this is a complicated situation and it was in fact his brother, the rules still apply, and as an anchor for CNN, he cannot advise a political figure. So that's it. Where do you want to start?
Well, I guess Ghislaine Maxwell, because I think that, we're just at the very, very tip of the iceberg here. If the prosecution is able to lay out all the witnesses that we kind of suspect there are, it's not only is going to go bad for her, but this is going to open up potential prosecution for a whole litany of, very powerful men and probably even some women who engaged in being the, if not traffickers themselves, certainly the people who were the recipients of trafficked children, let's say what they are, and for nefarious purposes. So, wherever and whoever they are, whatever their ilk, their politics or whatever else they are, their station in society, I hope they all go down, every single one of them.
Well, it does look like Clinton and I believe his Treasury Secretary, although I forget who, both met with Jeffrey Epstein for what we don't know. But we do know that they knew him. We do know that these women were being groomed for powerful men. And we also know that Trump met at least one of them, and again called Epstein a terrific guy. The Jane Doe, who says she met him while she was 14, did later in, I think it was 1990, participate in the Miss USA pageant. So, it's very hard to say what's going on. This is certainly not the first time that sex allegations, especially around both Trump and Clinton, but this is obviously far more serious. So this was just dropped today. We'll see what they say about it tomorrow if the testimony continues. Did she have any further meeting with Trump? But, she was brought down to Florida into the Mar-a-Lago resort at the age of 14. It doesn't mean Trump asked for it. Epstein clearly wanted her to meet Trump, but to what end? We don't know. Epstein committed suicide, I think it was 2 years ago in a jail cell. Yes.
Here's the thing, though. Just so if she is brought to Mar-a-Lago and then some illegal acts were committed against her, depending on the circumstances, Trump could still be liable because if he helped facilitate whatever went on, then he's an accomplice.
I'd be curious to know what the statute of limitations is on sex trafficking. I think it's usually, I mean, murder. I know that there is no statute of limitations in most jurisdictions. I have to believe sex trafficking is pretty close to that high. I don't know, but if it's anything under 30 years, maybe nobody can touch him.
Yeah, I mean, and of course his ardent supporters won't give a shit, but the thing is, I don't really worry about them though. I think that there are people that are not strictly affiliated but voted for him. Mm-hmm. That if they can be made to see that he was actually supporting some horrible things, and that's assuming that he did. I would tend to bet that he did. Because of all of his other behavior. But like I said, whoever is involved, I have no defense for anybody, even if it's people that I like, that did it, then I have no defense for them. And they should, if it's possible for there to be consequences, then there should be consequences.
Well, yeah, sorry. Okay, I got distracted. We'll see where the rest of the testimony goes. Obviously, they knew a lot of people. We'll see. Shoot, I'm sorry. I did lose my train of thought. I think there was something else I want to bring up in regards to that. But if I catch it, I'll bring up to it. Okay. So where else would you like to go? Let's see. We've got
the school shooting.
The school shooting. I was really impressed by that footage. The students were actually really calm. Having worked at a high school, you actually do those drills. And this is the reason why. It's kind of amazing. 20 years ago, we all did fire drills, but nobody would have thought active shooter drills. But those students are calm. And oh my God, they're just reasoned like, wait, did he say bro? No, a sheriff wouldn't say bro. Let's go. They just bail right out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he said bro. That's a red flag. The one kid said, that's a red flag. Let's get the hell out of here. Like sharp kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing, for the bigger issue though, this is like apparently I guess I saw earlier that his parents had met with the school earlier that morning because the school had concerns over him, and I'm gonna want to find out, where he got the gun. Did he take a family gun? Did he get it illegally? Because I really feel like, people need to start being held accountable for that. Because, all the Second Amendment sniffers, they're constantly like, oh, responsible gun owners. Well, you know what? If you have a gun, whether it's a rifle, handgun, or anything else in between, and it gets used in the commission of a crime, unless you can prove that you had that thing locked away, securely, and then somehow, that person was able to overcome your reasonable security measures, and do that, then you should be liable. It's no different than if you remember back in the late 80s, early 90s, when we started to really kind of crack down on drunk driving, and they started making bartenders liable if somebody was obviously drunk, and if they continued to be served, they said, well, look, you contributed. You're not at fault per se, because obviously that person chose to drink, but you contributed. You have some level of liability in what happened, and so I'm pretty sure such liability laws exist. So I guess we'll say what the Second Amendment people always say. Just enforce the laws on the books. Well, if there's laws that about liability, then fucking so and get draconian with it, really. Like in the case of this Rittenhouse kid, I mean, regardless, the fact that he got off, it's still clear that he had a gun. He received that gun illegally. It's stupid that the judge dismissed the charge, but that doesn't to take away the liability and from the person whoever provided, and they should be on the hook criminally for giving him the gun because it was illegal to do so.
Actually, it wasn't. Is the reason the judge had to throw it out is technically it wasn't. We've gone over the law from beginning. It's unfortunately he was at his age allowed to purchase a gun for if he had a valid hunting license. Now, ostensibly, then it's for hunting, but the law doesn't say that. The law just says if he has a hunting license, he can't actually buy one, but he can have it and he can carry it publicly. So if his uncle buys it or his father buys it and then gives it to him, he actually can. And it's obviously the law should not be written that way. I don't think it was intended to be used that way. But if that's what the law is, that's what the law is. But I do agree, and I keep confusing. Like, is it Switzerland where they give everybody a semi-automatic convertible to automatic rifle?
Well, it's not necessarily convertible, but they basically, because you were a part of effectively the National Guard, it's not true that everybody has a rifle, but many people, a large number of people have military rifles, but they don't have any ammo.
Okay,
ammo is strictly controlled.
Well, and one of the things that they do is they have a ballistics profile on every weapon. You're not allowed to sell the weapons, and so if your weapon's used in a commission of a crime, they can find out right away whose weapon it is just by grabbing the bullet and doing a ballistics match on the bullet. So all the guns are strictly, you have to have mental health screening before you get the weapon. You have to have 6 weeks of training. So I've said before, I'd be much better with the Second Amendment. In fact, I'd be okay with the U.S. issuing guns if we did absolutely everything that they do. If you lose track of your gun and it's used in commission of a crime, you are going to jail for life over there. They look at our laws and they say we're crazy.
Well, the funny thing is that whenever I've had discussions with Second Amendment people who want to say that I'm wrong in my position on it, and then they'll bring up, they always love to bring up Switzerland because, everyone's, just about everybody's got guns. And I say, okay, let's go with the Swiss model. And they always back away from that. They don't actually want the Swiss model. So it's a fallacious argument because they're arguing for something that supposedly, covers their position that they don't actually want. Now, I mean, there could be some Second Amendment people out there that are okay with the Swiss model. I haven't met them yet. But I tend to think that they're thin on the ground.
They want half of that model. They want the half that says that everybody gets a gun and that the government will, in fact, issue it to you. It's like, okay, but barring that, they have some of the strictest gun control on the planet. That's why it's safe. We just hand them out, and we're just like, no, we're not going to have ballistics checks. We can't trace the guns. Yeah.
Well, and like I said, you get your military battle rifle, and you have no ammo for it. It'll be issued to you in time of emergency. It would be issued to you. So that's your militia call. Here's your magazines. Go report to the place A, B, C. But they don't. And that's. I'm sick and tired of this idea. This idea, right? Everyone's got the right. And people who supposedly, right? Not everybody who's for Second Amendment is on the right wing, although predominantly. But they also tend to be the, quote unquote pro-lifers. Well, what about the life of the victims of the shooters? That never seems to. All of a sudden, the sanctity of life doesn't seem to matter anymore, and I have a serious problem with that. And as I've said before, it's not really a right I have. So it's the second privilege. It's not the second. It's not a right because it's not evenly applied, and there are certain people in the country who have broad access and certain that do not. And this is by design. It's not on paper. It's not codified in law. It's just in practice.
I will say this. If Rittenhouse had been black, I think when he was up with when he's with the rifle trying to surrender, I think he'd have there's a 50-50.
Probably would have been killed.
Wow.
And even if he was taken alive, the same people defending Rittenhouse now would not be defending him.
It would dramatically change things to say the least. All right, so I think that covers that. Then we've got left coronavirus and well, they're both actually part of the same thing. And Laura Logan saying that Dr. Fauci was essentially Dr. Mengele, which has been, by the way, condemned by the Anti-Defamation League. and for any number of reasons, not the least of which is, boy, does it really it is offensive to the idea of all the terrible things Mengele did to say that any living human being that we're aware of is even on the same scale as that's one of the few human beings that's a genuine monster.
The irony is the right wing tends to try to make the case that the left trivializes calling people Nazis and so forth, although we're watching the right wing literally turn into the same people. But they love to they project, and so they love to trivialize horrible things. It's just like when they equate whatever bullshit that they got to put up with slavery, which is an insult to every person who's ever been enslaved.
So the statement again, what you see on Dr. Fauci, and I guess she said on, this is what people say to me, that he doesn't represent science to them. I don't even know what that means. I have no idea what that means.
She's talking about scientifically illiterate people. So it's like when you deal with creationists and they'll say, well, evolution, that's not really science. And it's like, you have no fucking idea what science is or is not. So, your opinion on it is pretty low. But yeah, it's just, it obviously doesn't play outside the base, but it's for the base, red meat. Because the ever-growing fascist movement in this country would like to make out that other people are the real fascists.
Notice she did the same Trump thing too, which is, well, people are saying this. I'm not saying it, but people are telling me this. I mean, nobody's telling this. Nobody said this to her.
Yeah, it was me. I wrote it down and read it, but people are telling me. I don't pay attention to them because they don't say anything of value. They don't say anything that's resembling truth, and they don't care. It's just grist for the mill. It's simply it's all calculated, and so reacting to it too much. I mean, we have to condemn it, but reacting to it too much feeds into what they want. So you have to be very measured in your condemnation, because otherwise you're just giving them what they're looking for.
That is a really good point. So we'll move on, and let's see.
But CNN about the coronavirus itself.
But Omicron. Yeah. So you think I've forgotten that?
Well, I mean, I guess part of the issue is we don't know much about it right now. We don't know, since the only person in the U.S. that's had mild case. We don't know. It's possible that this is a milder variant. It's possible that it's a more variant. We don't have enough data, and I haven't. I've been busy, so if there's anything out there from other countries, I just haven't looked at it, so I can't comment on what there is or isn't. But the impression I get is that it's still in the early stages. We know that it's a unique variant, but I don't know that we have a lot of data on how contagious it is and how damaging it is. So I guess taking precautions is a good thing. Although I saw one thing that made the point that everyone's freaked out about South Africa, including the president, but South Africa detected it. That doesn't mean that's where it originated. It doesn't mean where it's centered. So blocking travel from the southern African countries, I mean, I guess if you do all the places with Omicron, that makes more sense. But kind of focusing on there, it's like, well, it would be kind of like, ostracizing the whistleblower and not the miscreant.
Actually, I think they found that the source of the South African variant was actually two people who came into the country. So it looks like that's not where it originated. South Africa does have some of the best and most aggressive testing out there, which is one of the reasons they found it early. It could, in fact, it's already in so many countries. I think 20 countries now. It's probably been there. We just haven't really been looking for it or for testing for it. The reason they found it first is because they are the most aggressive at it. But the initial data that we do have on it is not good. It suggests that it's both more contagious, significantly more contagious, and also what was the other word I was looking for? More resistant to the vaccines, but it's an extremely small sample size, so it's not yet statistically relevant. So we do have this data. If you look at it, it's quite scary. But the problem is, it's it's not statistically relevant yet. So, but the data that we've seen as data's coming in seems to still be trending in that direction. I don't think we're going to know probably for at least a week and a half just how we're not going to have a solid idea for how bad it is, and even then we're not going to have how long did it take us to get the actual COVID numbers? It took I think it took us about 6 to 8 months to actually get the right mortality figures for COVID. But I think we're going to, hopefully in about a week and a half, we'll have a clearer picture of whether this is better or worse. But right now, the signs that we're seeing is it's worse, and that's why the World Health Organization is taking it so seriously. But again, it's not statistically relevant, so it's sort of like, well, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's best to take the precaution. It's better to be, and I get so sick and tired of the right wing always, the cure is worse than the disease. I don't believe that. I think that you use your best information, and if the information is suggesting that it's really bad, taking the extra precautions in the near term, it's better to have done them and not have needed them than to not done them when you desperately need them. Because as we know, if you remember when COVID was first coming to the US, there was that cruise ship, and there was 6 people, then it was 14 people on the cruise ship, and they let them off before they had run its course, and then it spread really, really badly here. So we went from 6 cases to a few hundred to a few thousand in a couple weeks.
Yep.
And,
all right,
and beyond.
Yeah, we're going to stay on it. I think we're going to have to start. We're not to the point yet where we're going to be doing a weekly with Homozygote, if he'd even be willing. But if he would, I mean, at some point, I think we're gonna. If it's as bad as just like the initial data looks, we're going to have to meet with him reasonably regularly. So now I know there was at least one other. Were there any other stories that you wanted to cover that we haven't hit? It's a short day today.
There was something I saw earlier today. It was in Tucson. It happened recently that a police officer shot and killed a man in a motorized wheelchair. I've actually seen the video. And so the story is that he went in the store and supposedly he threatened one of the store clerks. So he left, and then he was going back to the store. And so the police were called out. Now, they haven't questioned him. So they're following him, and he's not paying attention to them. Although getting in front of him probably could have stopped him because, it looks like the exact same motorized chair my mom has. I mean, it doesn't have a lot of oomph. I could stop it with my foot.
Okay.
But instead of doing that, the officer said, was told him, not to go in the store, and he didn't listen. And the cop pulls out his weapon and dumps 8 shots at the guy.
Jesus.
From behind. Now, there's no evidence that he was actually a threat. Again, this guy's in a slow-moving motorized wheelchair. Even if he did have a knife, this was a ridiculous overuse of force because the officer's life was not in danger. There was no indication that anybody else's life was in danger. So to shoot somebody in the back, so they have since fired the officer. But again, it's one of those things where nothing happens until the video gets to the public.
Yeah.
And then when people see how blatant the whole thing is, There's no question. Yeah, was the guy doing something wrong? I mean, he should have stopped and listened to the cops. They gave him a lawful order. He should have stopped. That should not carry a death sentence.
No, and yeah, I mean, there are consequences for not following legal instruction. Obstruction. You'll spend a little time in jail, like 30 days or whatever. As well, you should.
Sure.
As well, you should. But it's not. No.
As well, you should.
Well, and here's the thing. I mean, I would assume his concern was you could easily hide a weapon in a wheelchair, or you could hide a pistol there. But I don't know how you're gonna. If it's a wheelchair, I don't know how you're gonna hit somebody behind you because it's got the broad back.
Well, that's the thing, and the thing is that there was no indication or even suggestion that he actually had a gun or anything like that. It's just that he supposedly had a knife. I don't know how big the knife was, but again, I'm not really afraid of a guy in a motorized wheelchair with a knife. I'm not.
No.
Because even my slow fat ass could have outrun this person. So if I could get away, any fit person certainly could. Like I said, this thing could be stopped with my foot. And there were no attempts. They didn't try to, hell, they could have come up from behind his chair and grabbed the chair. That would have been enough.
Yeah.
Hell, or they could have tried non-lethal. I mean, tasers could kill, but they're not generally a deadly weapon. He made no attempts at non-lethal methods to try to stop the guy whatsoever.
I do think. I mean, we have a lot of police in this country, and we're always going to find one officer who is really unhinged in some way. But I think you brought up an interesting point, which is let's assume that there's just something mentally deranged about this officer. How long before this action was taken?
Seconds. I mean, basically, like I said, they're following through the parking lot. That's a minute and a half, maybe tops, probably more like a minute. And then he gets to the door, and a second officer comes up and says, "Hey, she draws her gun," which again is suspect. And then all of a sudden, they give him the command. She gives the command to stop. The other officer takes out his gun. Bam, 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 bam.
Jesus. Now, how long?
And here's the other thing too.
Yes.
He's walking into a Walmart, I think it was, or whatever store it was. It was a big box store. So he's shooting at the guy in front of him. There are people downrange of this gun, of his fire. Now, not all the bullets hit the guy, even though he was shooting from point blank range. And so some of those shots missed. He potentially could have been, harming or killing, innocent people who had nothing to go on. There was no attempt at securing the public safety whatsoever.
So how long from the incident before the officer was fired?
It was days.
It was days. Okay. Was he at least suspended on that day, pending an investigation? I mean, I'd want him to be suspended pending an investigation anyway. But you'd hope. I mean, I don't know if there was what the footage. Well, we should look into this. I definitely think we should look into this because this is interesting.
I'm checking this one story here to see if it said when it happened. Oh, I'm sorry, I was wrong. He fired 9 rounds, not 8.
Jesus.
And again, you're shooting at somebody from point blank range. It's not necessarily, and he wasn't charging anybody. He wasn't brandishing a weapon. Even if he had one, he wasn't brandishing it. This one story does not say, and I don't recall.
Right.
Oh, okay, no. So that was soon. It was Monday. So it only took a day after, as soon as the video reached the public.
All right, and what I'm going to do here is
And look, I'll say that this, because I when I give people hell, if they do something right, I feel obligated to give them credit as well. So firing the officer was absolutely the right thing to do. And it also goes to show that, things like this only happen when the leadership doesn't abide it, or leadership does abide when they basically look the other way and they let bad cops do what they do. And very often they actually sanction good cops who turn them in, which tells me that the leadership actually doesn't want to drum these people out. It wants to drum the good cops out. So, it's the roots. It's the roots of the tree. It's not bad apples. It's the roots of the tree. Because if the leadership in various police departments were against this kind of thing, this would be the norm instead of the exception. And then we wouldn't see so many of these incidents. I mean, you always have some because even your best due diligence, you're still going to find wackaloons who are going to pop off and do crazy stuff. But it wouldn't happen that often.
All right, so I have not yet seen this footage. It's Fox 10 News. So, I've got it. Titan sent it, so thank you, Titan. I do have it, and so I'm going to put it up now. So this is the footage from that incident. I usually like to see what I'm airing before I air it, but we'll get that up here. And let's see. I actually imagine I can probably get audio from it. So let's give the audio a shot. No, it's not going to do audio on this. Let's So they have the body camera footage. So he was suspected of shoplifting. "61 years old, stole a toolbox from Walmart." The officer was off duty working security at the store. Stephanie Taylor arrived first. This is her body camera footage. Oh, so they said, "Don't go into the store," sir. He was going back into the store, and he just opened fire. So apparently they asked for a receipt. So that's what there's. But I mean, he was clearly shot from a considerable distance away. So. And considerable distance, by the way, anything more than the 3 feet if the guy's if he's in his 60s in a wheelchair. And so yeah, sorry I wasn't able to get the sound for that, but at least we got the footage. So thank you, Titan, for that. Well, we may have another. Yeah, no, that's the same. Well, okay, that would just be. Let me see if I can get that. And then we'll call it a wrap. I may also have, let's see, I may have that was another image of it. Where'd it go? There we go. So this would be CNN. No, okay, and that's just see how much of the footage we've got here. No, I don't think we're going to. Oh, okay. Maybe we can get it in here. Okay, it's the same footage. I'm not going to be able to get sound on this either. So he was going back into the store. Yeah, and I mean, literally, as soon as they said, "Don't go back into the store," they opened fire. So, yep. All right. Well, I think we'll definitely try to stay on that one. So thank you for that. Is there anything else you wanted to hit before we go?
No, I mean, I've been kind of out of it between work stuff and then, of course, over the holiday weekend, I was not really paying attention to the world. So I was not really keeping up with what's going on.
That's all right. Yep, the holiday. I am also pretty far behind in what's going on in the world. The holidays do it to you. It's Thanksgiving and then all the other stuff. All right. Well, thank you very much, Joe. Look forward to seeing you again next week, or if you want to stop by after dark. But until then, I'm glad you're back. And to everyone else, we will do After Dark on